Commander Riley Chen stood ramrod straight as the Vorzak inspection party circled her like predators assessing prey. The tallest alien, High Marshal Krefta, according to her briefing, extended a three-fingered hand toward her bicep, hesitating. "You may examine me," Riley said, maintaining diplomatic protocol despite her discomfort. Krefta's touch was clinical, pressing into her muscle with a dismissive chirp. "Inadequate density," he announced to his delegation. "Approximately 1/7 Crolian standard." The delegation's universal translators conveyed their reactions, a mixture of amusement and pity that made Riley's jaw clench. 6 distinct species, each evolutionary path clearly specialized for different environments, yet united in their condescension. "We had expected more," Krefta continued, pacing around her with unnerving grace. "Your transmission showed human athletes performing impressive feats. By our standards, not yours," Riley acknowledged diplomatically. "We value diversity of ability rather than specialization." This triggered a burst of multitonal laughter that Riley's translator struggled to process. The serpentine slith delegate unwound her sinuous body, extending it through an impossibly small decorative ring in the wall before reassembling her coils on the other side. "Diversity is inefficiency," the slith hissed, her voice melodic despite the harsh words. "The Federation thrives through specialization." The diplomatic tour continued through the cavernous space station, a marvel of engineering that made Earth's orbital habitats look primitive. Riley documented everything discreetly with her ocular implants, noting defensive capabilities and technological advancements for later analysis. "And this," Krefta announced with unmistakable pride, "is the heart of Federation culture." The doors parted to reveal a massive gymnasium complex spanning multiple decks. Each section featured different gravitational conditions, atmospheric compositions, and specialized equipment. Hundreds of aliens trained across the facility, each species focused on exercises that showcase their evolutionary advantages. "Physical prowess determined standing within the Federation," Krefta explained. "Leadership positions, resource allocation, even diplomatic assignments, all earned through competition." Riley watched a Crolian lift what appeared to be several tons of weight with ease while nearby. A Dorax blurred across a track at speeds that rivaled Earth's fastest vehicles. "Fascinating," Riley said genuinely. "On Earth, we separate governance from athletic achievement. A primitive approach." Graztok, the Vorzak diplomat, interjected. "The body reveals the truth of a species. Strength cannot be falsified." As they moved through the facility, a young attendant stumbled, dropping a metallic object. Without thinking, Riley's hand snapped out, catching it before it hit the ground. A simple reflex honed through years of combat training. The delegation fell silent. "Good reflexes," Krefta noted, the first compliment offered since their arrival. Emboldened, Riley asked, "Would it be possible for humans to participate in your competitions, as a gesture of cultural exchange?" The silence shattered as 6 different species erupted in laughter. Graztok actually doubled over, his elongated frame shaking with mirth. "Humans, in our gymnasium," he wheezed. "You would break like twigs under Crolian gravity, suffocate in Chitarak's atmosphere, snap your fragile bones attempting Vorzak jumps." Riley maintained her diplomatic smile, but something cold settled in her stomach as she noticed the wall of champions displaying holographic records of past victors. Her analytical mind quickly recognized the pattern. Each species always won their specialized events. The system wasn't just about showcasing evolutionary advantages. It was designed to reinforce a hierarchy. "Of course," she replied smoothly. "Just curiosity." As they exited, Riley glanced back at the gym, noting something else. Not a single mixed-species training group. Each competed and trained separately, their natural advantages unchallenged, their weaknesses unexposed. A potential vulnerability, she thought. One that might prove useful if negotiations turned sour. "Your terms are unacceptable," Riley stated, sliding the data tablet back across the polished negotiation table. A week of diplomatic maneuvering had deteriorated into thinly veiled insults and predatory proposals. Grasstalk's facial ridges flushed a deep purple. Unacceptable. Earth barely maintains interplanetary travel. You have nothing to offer but raw materials and quaint technologies. The Federation delegation nodded in agreement. The Crolian representative flexed his massive arms unconsciously, a dominance display Riley had come to recognize. We offer fair trade and cultural exchange, Riley countered. Not resource extraction rights to our entire solar system. Grasstalk leaned forward, voice dropping to a growl the translator rendered with perfect contempt. Your bodies are weak. Your species is weak. Your bargaining position is weak. Something snapped inside Riley. Not just anger, but a deep-seated pride she kept carefully contained throughout the negotiations. Without thinking, she slammed her fist down on the composite table. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber as a fracture line spread from the impact point. Silence fell. Riley rose slowly, leveraging the moment. One human. Your best 6 champions. Your gym. The Federation representatives exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from amusement to uncertainty. You cannot be serious, Grasstalk finally said. Completely serious, Riley replied. If humans are as inferior as you claim, prove it. Riley. Captain Saunders warned through her comm implant. Withdraw the challenge immediately. She disabled the comm with a subtle gesture, fully aware of the diplomatic catastrophe she was creating. Grasstalk's mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of a smile. The human wishes to compete in the absolute circuit. The Council accepts. The words absolute circuit triggered murmurs among the delegation. Even the massive Crolian looked surprised. What's the absolute circuit? Riley asked, suddenly wary. Our most comprehensive physical challenge, Grasstalk explained with obvious relish. Few survive without permanent injury. None complete it without genetic optimization. The meeting adjourned with theatrical formality, the Federation representatives barely containing their excitement at the unexpected entertainment. The moment they left, Captain Saunders stormed into the room, his face ashen. Do you realize what you've done? He demanded. Billions in potential trade agreements, Earth's first major extraterrestrial alliance. You've staked it all on a schoolyard challenge. They were never going to offer fair terms, Riley argued. They see us as primitive resources to be harvested. You need to withdraw, Saunders insisted. That would confirm everything they believe about us, Riley countered. We need to stand our ground. The captain's expression hardened. Fine. Then we need another volunteer. Someone expendable. No, Riley shook her head. My challenge, my responsibility. Later that night, as Riley reviewed footage of previous competitions, Dr. Santos entered her quarters without knocking. You're hiding something, he said, placing a medical scanner on her desk. Your biometrics show abnormal muscle memory patterns. Riley sighed, minimizing the footage. Before diplomatic service, I was an Olympic pentathlon alternate. Never got to compete. That's something. At least, Santos said, pulling up a holographic model of alien physiologies. But there's more bad news. I analyzed the station's atmospheric composition. He highlighted a section of the display. Trace argon compounds, harmless at rest, but during extended exertion. They'll affect human lung function, Riley finished, understanding dawning. The air itself is rigged against us. Santos nodded grimly. They never expected any human to accept the challenge. They've built an entire system where each species only competes in conditions optimized for their biology. Can we file a protest? On what grounds? It's their station, their atmosphere. Santos shrugged. Besides, the broadcast has already gone out. 20 systems will be watching the human attempt. Riley stared at the frozen image on her screen, a Vorzak champion standing atop a victory platform. Then we adapt. It's what humans do best. Riley squinted at the holographic profiles of her 6 opponents, each a genetic masterpiece of specialized evolution. The Federation had granted her restricted access to competitor data, a gesture of mock fairness that only reinforced how hopeless her challenge appeared. "They're not just athletes," Dr. Santos observed, manipulating the display to reveal deeper physiological scans. "They're purpose-bred champions, genetic engineering masked as natural selection." The Krolian's musculature appeared almost geological in density, layers upon compacted layers. "Jirax K hasn't lost a strength competition in 7 cycles," Riley read from the profile. "But look at his joint structure." Santos zoomed in. "Interesting. Extended exertion causes a form of temporary arthritis. His cartilage hardens after approximately 8 minutes of continuous strain." They moved methodically through each competitor, identifying crucial weaknesses the Federation had conveniently omitted from the official records. "The Slith can contort through spaces smaller than her head, but requires external heat sources to maintain mobility. Dorak's cardiovascular systems operate on a sprint collapse cycle. Anything beyond 90 seconds triggers automatic shutdown. Mevari balance depends entirely on specialized fluid in their quad-chambered inner ears, which overheats under sustained use. Chitarax can manipulate their molecular structure for climbing, but their exoskeletons develop microfractures with each impact. And the Vorzak themselves," Santos concluded, "can generate explosive power for jumps and strikes, but require 17 minutes for their energy reserves to replenish." Riley frowned, noticing an anomaly in the station's historical records. "There's a gap here. References to a 7th founding species, but no data." The door chimed, interrupting their research. A small Chitarax technician entered, mandibles clicking nervously as she installed additional monitoring equipment. "Why 7 environmental chambers if there are only 6 Federation species?" Riley asked casually. The technician froze momentarily. "You are well observed, human," she whispered, her translator barely picking up the words. "The enduring ones were removed from records." "Removed? Why?" The technician glanced at the door. "They were too balanced. No specialized skills. Disgustingly adaptable." Her compound eyes flicked up to meet Riley's. "Like humans." After the technician departed, Santos pulled up intercepted transmissions from the Federation Council. "They're making this a spectacle," he said grimly. "Galaxy-wide broadcast. The human attempt, they're calling it." The footage showed Graztok addressing representatives from 20 systems. "Witness the natural order reasserted. Earth seeks membership as equals. But this demonstration will prove why humans qualify only for protected primitive status." Protected primitive, Riley echoed. "A classification that would make Earth a conservation zone," Santos explained. "No technology sharing, no voting rights in the Federation. And here's the kicker: resource extraction rights for the protecting species." They planned this from the beginning, Riley realized. If I'd refused the challenge, they'd claim humans lack courage. When I lose, they prove humans lack physical capability for equal standing. Santos nodded. Either way, they justify claiming the Sol system. Riley stared at the profiles of her opponents, each perfectly evolved for their specializations. "Then I need to change the narrative. Humans aren't specialized for any single thing because we're specialized for adaptation itself." "That's a lovely philosophy," Santos said skeptically, "but you're facing beings who can bend metal with their bare hands or run at 80 miles per hour. Riley adjusted the display, arranging the 6 competitors in sequence. "I don't need to beat them at their specialties. I need to exploit the recovery periods between events." She highlighted the physiological recovery requirements. "They're designed to excel in bursts. Humans are designed to keep going when everything hurts." "Endurance as a weapon," Santos mused. "That might work, if you survive the first 3 events." "I won't just survive," Riley said, a plan forming. "I'll reveal the fraud at the heart of their system." The Intrepid's engineering bay had been transformed into a makeshift training facility. Chief Engineer Patel had sealed off an entire section, meticulously recreating the station's atmospheric conditions down to the trace argon compounds. Riley doubled over, coughing violently as she completed her 15th circuit. Flecks of blood spattered the floor. "That's enough," Dr. Santos said, reaching for the environmental controls. "No," Riley gasped, straightening with effort. "Again. Your lung tissue is showing microabrasions. Another hour in this atmosphere and—" "The actual competition will last longer," Riley interrupted. "I need to acclimate." Santos scowled but reset the timer. The gravity plates beneath the training area whined as they recalibrated, shifting randomly between 0.8 and 1.4 G, another variable Riley would face in the competition. 3 hours later, Riley collapsed in her quarters, muscles spasming from exhaustion. The training data scrolled across her tablet, each metric worse than the previous days. A week of preparation, and she was getting weaker, not stronger. A chime at her door. Santos entered without waiting for permission, carrying a metallic case. "You're killing yourself," he said bluntly. "I'm adapting," Riley countered, though her lungs felt like they were lined with broken glass. Santos placed the case on her desk, pressing his thumb to the biometric lock. It opened to reveal a rack of innocuous-looking autoinjectors. "What are those?" Riley asked, though she already suspected. "Nanomids. Military grade." His voice dropped. "Before I joined the diplomatic corps, I developed performance enhancers for special operations." Riley stared at him. That research was terminated after the Jakarta incident. All subjects died. Not all of them. Santos rolled up his sleeve, revealing a latticework of faint scars. "I tested every formulation on myself first. The final version worked too well. The military shut us down when the enhanced soldiers began questioning orders." Riley pushed the case away. "That's cheating." "Is it?" Santos challenged. "Every one of your opponents is genetically engineered. The Krallian has muscle density impossible in nature. The Slith's spine contains synthetic polymers." Riley stood shakily. "Then I lose as a human rather than win as something else." Later, during her allotted practice time in the Federation Gymnasium, Riley struggled through the Mavari balance course as the gravity shifted unexpectedly mid-step. She fell hard, bruising her hip. "System malfunction. Apologies," announced the facility AI, though Riley noticed the Vorzak observers smirking. As she reset her position, a slender four-armed figure approached. "Zilton, the Mavari champion. They will continue to sabotage your practice," Zilton said softly, helping Riley up with unexpected gentleness. "The course reads biosignatures. When it detects non-Mavari physiology, it increases instability." "Why tell me this?" Riley asked. Ziltan's large eyes blinked vertically. "Because I was not bred for this. I was selected at hatching, modified, trained for one purpose." Her voice carried an unexpected bitterness. "No choice. No other purpose permitted." "Thank you," Riley said, genuinely touched. After Riley departed, Lieutenant Kim, her diplomatic aide, rushed to meet her with alarming news. "We've decoded their council transmissions," Kim reported, showing Riley a data tablet. "The protected primitive classification isn't just about status. It's a legal mechanism to claim development rights to the Sol system. Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons, all would become Federation resource extraction zones." Riley's jaw tightened. "Then we don't just need a respectable showing. We need a statement." "You're already at physical limits," Kim warned. "The atmospheric exposure alone." "Find me everything we have on human ultra-endurance adaptations," Riley interrupted. "Historically, when humans had to keep going beyond normal limits, what physiological changes occurred? You're not thinking of." "Voluntary stress response activation," Riley confirmed. "The competition format gives me one advantage. They've designed it to showcase specialized bursts, with recovery periods in between. I need to maximize the differential between their recovery needs and mine." "That's suicide," Kim whispered. Riley's smile was grim. No, that's being human. The Federation Gymnasium had transformed into a coliseum. Holographic displays suspended throughout the vast chamber showed magnified views of the competition floor, while atmospheric barriers separated different species viewing sections, each calibrated to specific environmental needs. Riley entered to a cacophony of alien sounds, clicks, whistles, and multi-tonal hoots that her translator rendered as various forms of derision. The central display showed a three-dimensional model of human anatomy, highlighting what the Federation considered structural weaknesses. "Behold the human competitor," announced a Vorzak commentator. "Note the minimal musculature, fragile skeletal structure, and inefficient respiratory system." Riley ignored the commentary, focusing on the first challenge. The Crolian Strength event consisted of a progressive lifting sequence, beginning at 300 pounds and increasing in 100-pound increments. Champion Jaraxka stood nearby, his gray stone skin rippling with muscle density that seemed more geological than biological. "You will injure yourself," he rumbled, his massive head tilting with what seemed like genuine concern. "Probably," Riley agreed, approaching the first weight. The bar felt impossibly heavy, but her form was perfect, the result of thousands of repetitions. She completed the first lift to surprise murmurs from the crowd. By 600 pounds, her muscles screamed in protest. The biometric displays showed alarming strain on her skeletal structure, which the commentators gleefully highlighted. Most of the audience expected her to stop, to recognize the rational limit. Riley reached 700 pounds, her vision narrowing to a tunnel. Even Jaraxka looked surprised as she trembled through the lift. "Enough," he said. "You have made your point." Riley completed 8 levels, reaching 1,100 pounds, before physically incapable of continuing. Jaraxka easily continued to the maximum 1,800 pounds, but the mood had shifted. The human had reached 60% of a Crolian's capacity, 3 times what Federation scientists had predicted possible. Between events, xenobiologists swarmed Riley, their scanners probing for hidden enhancements or structural anomalies. They found nothing but standard human biology. "Impossible," muttered one. "The skeletal integrity should have failed at 500 pounds. The slith flexibility event seemed even more hopeless. The serpentine champion could literally tie herself into knots. Yet Riley surprised everyone by employing ancient yoga techniques passed down from her grandmother, reaching the 3rd tier of difficulty. The real shock came during biometric analysis. Riley's body was adapting in real time, her muscle tissue showing micro-tears already beginning repair processes, her cardiovascular system optimizing oxygen delivery patterns that hadn't been present hours earlier. The Dorak speed challenge brought unexpected danger. As Riley rounded the final curve, the safety barriers malfunctioned, allowing the cheetah-like Dorak's champion to veer into her lane. His razor-sharp exoskeletal edge slashed her thigh, opening a deep gash. Medical officials rushed forward, ready to declare her medically withdrawn, but Riley tore a strip from her uniform, bound the wound mid-race, and continued. She finished just 12 seconds behind the Mavari competitor, a gap that should have been minutes according to Federation models. Between events, cameras followed each competitor to their preparation areas. The alien champions received intensive medical interventions, cellular regeneration, oxygen infusions, neural stimulants. Riley simply drank water and stretched, her body somehow recovering faster naturally than theirs did with technological assistance. Grasstalk, watching the shifting sentiment among spectators, issued a quiet command to environmental control. Increase atmospheric toxicity by 15%. As Riley prepared for the 4th event, she began coughing blood, her lungs struggling with the suddenly harsher air composition. Federation medical scanners registered the change, but officials did nothing. Until Xilton, the young Mavari champion, publicly approached Riley and offered her personal breathing apparatus. "This is not victory," Xilton announced loudly enough for nearby cameras to capture. "This is sabotage." The gesture created an immediate diplomatic incident. Federation officials, suddenly aware of 20 systems watching, reluctantly normalized the atmosphere while publicly censuring Silton for competitive interference. As Riley caught her breath, she noticed something unexpected on the station's information feeds. Lowercase Federation citizens gathering in habitat sections, watching the competition with growing interest, some attempting to mimic human-style exercises that utilized multiple muscle groups simultaneously. Something was shifting in the Federation, one human step at a time. The Mavari balance course loomed before Riley, a series of progressively narrowing beams suspended over depths that seemed deliberately intimidating. Her injured leg throbbed with each heartbeat, blood seeping through the makeshift bandage. Ziltan, now under guard for her earlier intervention, caught Riley's eye and made a subtle gesture, a slight shift in hand position that seemed to suggest something about the beams themselves. Riley approached the first beam cautiously. As her foot made contact, she felt it, almost imperceptible vibrations running through the material. The Federation commentators were explaining how the course was designed to test the perfect equilibrium evolved in Mavari physiology, but Riley suddenly understood what Silton had tried to communicate. The beams generated frequencies that disrupted inner ear balance mechanisms, a challenge for species that relied on specialized organs for equilibrium. But human balance used a different system, a combination of vision, proprioception, and inner ear function working in concert. Riley closed her eyes briefly, shifting her reliance to her body's position sense, rather than visual or inner ear cues. She moved across the beams with unexpected grace, her injured leg barely hindering her progress. The stadium fell silent as she completed the course with the second-best time in competition history. Impossible. Graztok's voice cut through the quiet. Scan her for augmentation devices. Federation officials surrounded Riley, subjecting her to humiliating public scans that projected her entire biological structure on stadium displays. The results showed nothing but natural human biology and elevated adrenaline. The human uses no technology, the chief medical officer announced reluctantly. This is natural capability. The Chitarax climbing wall came next, a vertical surface embedded with microscopic toxins designed to bond with non-insectoid skin. Riley felt the burning begin the moment her hands made contact, but she had anticipated this. Before the event, she had coated her palms with a mixture Dr. Santos had prepared, a compound that would minimize absorption while still allowing grip. The pain was still excruciating. Each handhold left bloody prints as the toxins penetrated her skin barrier. The Chitarax champion scuttled up using molecular adhesion in his exoskeleton, completing the climb in under 2 minutes. Riley took nearly 8, fighting through waves of agony that the biometric displays broadcast to the entire stadium. She finished 4th, mathematically keeping her in contention. The arena's atmosphere had transformed. Betting markets crashed across the station as odds on the human shifted dramatically. Species that had come to mock now watched with a different emotion, something approaching respect or even admiration. In the competitors' rest area, Riley checked the standings. Despite expectations that she would place last in every event, she now ranked 3rd overall with 2 events remaining. Medical scans showed her alien competitors requiring significant interventions, synthetic tissue regeneration, neural stimulants, metabolic accelerators, while Riley needed only water and protein. As she stretched her damaged muscles, a shadow fell across her. The Krolian champion, Jiraxka, towered above, his stone-like features unreadable. "You confuse us, human," he rumbled quietly. "How so?" Riley asked. "You have no genetic optimization, yet you continue beyond rational limits." He glanced around, ensuring they weren't overheard. "Champions like us are disposable. Once peak performance declines, we are discarded. On Earth, we call what I'm doing heart," Riley explained. "It's not measurable in scans." Jiraxka considered this. If a human can challenge the system, perhaps champions could demand better treatment. His massive hand gestured subtly toward the viewing areas. "Many watch you now, not just for entertainment." Before Riley could respond, a Federation announcement echoed through the facility. "Attention all competitors. The Council has approved a special modification to the final event to ensure appropriate challenge levels for all participants." The message was clear. The Vorzak would change whatever rules necessary to ensure human defeat. But Riley had already changed something more important: the perception of what was possible. The special modification to the final event was revealed as Riley entered the arena. What had been advertised as the Vorzak Agility Gauntlet had transformed into a multi-stage nightmare, a course that incorporated all previous challenges with minimal recovery time between segments. Most significantly, they had added an underwater component, exploiting the assumption that humans were poor swimmers compared to aquatic adapted species. Riley entered tied for third place overall, her body a canvas of injuries. The collective punishment of the previous events showed in her limping gait and labored breathing. The stadium's medical scanners displayed her condition for all to see: microfractures in her left fibula, damaged lung tissue, torn shoulder ligaments, toxin concentrations in her bloodstream that would have hospitalized most humans. "The human continues despite medical recommendation for withdrawal," the announcer stated, unable to keep a note of surprise from the translation. 6 competitors remained as the final challenge began. The Slith dropped out immediately, her cold-blooded physiology unable to generate sufficient heat after the previous events. The Dorak started strong but collapsed before the halfway mark, his cardiovascular system simply shutting down from cumulative stress. The underwater segment proved particularly brutal. The Slith, normally dominant in aquatic environments, struggled with body temperature regulation in the cold water. Riley, drawing on competitive swimming experience, maintained steady progress while conserving energy. Disaster struck during the climbing section. Riley's damaged leg gave way, causing a fall that twisted her already injured knee. Federation medical officials rushed forward, certain this would end her participation. But Riley dragged herself upright, now in 4th place with only the Krolian, Chitarax, and Vorzak still competing. As competitors reached the final obstacle series, Riley noticed the Vorzak champion, Grastok's nephew, retreating briefly to a preparation area. Through the transparent barrier, she clearly saw him receiving an injection, a recovery stimulant explicitly forbidden by the Federation's own rules. Officials deliberately looked away, creating a moment of decision. Riley could report the violation, knowing the Vorzak would never penalize their own champion or find another approach. Drawing on diplomatic training rather than athletic instinct, Riley made her choice. As she passed a communications node used for competitor tracking, she activated it, her voice carrying through the arena's announcement system. "I'd like to congratulate the Vorzak champion," she said, her voice steady despite her ragged breathing, "for finding the strength to continue despite the 17-minute recovery limitation all competitors must observe between explosive movements." The stadium fell silent as the accusation landed. Federation officials frantically attempted to cut her transmission, but the damage was done. The broadcast had already gone live to 20 systems. Spectators began calling up Federation competition regulations on personal devices, confirming the 17-minute rule. Grastok himself appeared at the official station, demanding the human be disqualified for communications interference, but the head judge, a Mavari with no love for Vorzak dominance, shook her head. "The regulation exists," she stated firmly. "Either enforce it equally or acknowledge it does not apply." Trapped by their own publicly broadcast rules, officials reluctantly ordered testing of all remaining competitors. The Vorzak champion's stimulant levels registered immediately, forcing officials to either enforce their rule or publicly admit the competition's fraudulent nature. The Vorzak champion was permitted to continue without further chemical assistance. Within minutes, his previously perfect form deteriorated. In the final climbing segment, his muscles seized completely, leaving him frozen halfway up the wall. The Chitarax's exoskeleton, stressed beyond design limits by the combined events, developed catastrophic fractures during a simple landing. He collapsed, unable to continue. Only Riley and the Krolian remained, both moving on determination rather than physical capacity. In the final meters, Jaraxka's pace slowed noticeably. He turned, making deliberate eye contact with Riley before gesturing slightly forward, a nearly imperceptible invitation. Riley understood the silent message. This was no longer about the competition, but about something far more significant. Riley's second-place finish, missing the overall championship by a single point, created shockwaves throughout the Federation. Transmission records confirmed that 5 billion beings across 20 systems had witnessed her performance, and, more importantly, the exposed corruption in the competition system. 2 days later, still recovering in the Intrepid's medical bay, Riley received an unexpected visitor. Grastok himself requested permission to board. His manner dramatically changed from his previous arrogance. The Federation Council demands an explanation for your unexpected capability, he said, mandibles twitching with discomfort. I'm completely average by human standards, Riley replied. Run whatever tests you want. Grastok produced a data crystal. We already have. Our xenobiologists are disturbed by the results. He activated a holographic display showing microscopic scans of Riley's tissues. Your muscle fibers show micro-tears already in repair phases. Your bones display accelerated remodeling at stress points. Your metabolic responses adapted during the competition itself. That's what humans do, Riley explained. We don't specialize. We adapt. The diplomatic consequences materialized faster than anyone expected. Jaraxka, the Krolian champion who had subtly allowed Riley to finish ahead of him, requested asylum aboard the Intrepid. His public statement sent tremors through the Federation hierarchy. I was created for one purpose, to win, he announced to Federation media. My genetic sequence includes planned obsolescence. At age 12, my cellular structure will begin rapid degradation. I am 9 now. He stood beside Riley, dwarfing her physically while deferring to her presence. Humans compete, succeed, and fail as themselves. They are not disposable. I choose their way. The Federation Council, facing unprecedented public scrutiny, reconvened emergency negotiations with Earth's delegation. The terms transformed overnight. Favorable trade agreements, defensive pacts, and most significantly, a formal apology for the attempted classification of humans as a protected primitive species. The Federation acknowledges humanity's unique adaptive phenotype, read the official proclamation, and recognizes Earth as a full sovereign member with all associated rights and protections. The deeper changes became apparent 6 months later. Reports from Federation worlds described underground, human-style training facilities, emphasizing all-around development rather than specialized performance. The Vorzak attempted to suppress this movement until a subspace transmission reached Earth from beyond Federation borders. Greetings from the Enduring Ones, came the unexpected message. We have observed your performance within the Federation system. Like you, we were deemed insufficient for our balanced physiology. We propose alliance. The Federation's missing 7th species, banished for being too generalist in their capabilities, had been watching from the shadows. Their return to the galactic stage created a political counterbalance to specialized evolution philosophies. Riley, now promoted to Admiral and Federation liaison, received one final message that crystallized everything the competition had accomplished. It came from Silton, the young Mavari athlete who had risked her position to help Riley. We never feared you would lose in our gym, she wrote. We feared what would happen if you won. Revolution begins not with weapons but with questions. You taught billions to question what they'd never questioned before, his specialization truly superior to adaptability. Is genetic destiny stronger than choice? The Federation will never be the same. As the Intrepid prepared to depart the station, Riley observed dozens of aliens from all Federation species in the gymnasium, deliberately training outside their specialized comfort zones. Some wore makeshift representations of Earth's flag as emblems. Projection complete, reported the Intrepid's AI. Based on current adoption rates, human-inspired cross-training philosophy will become dominant in Federation culture within 5 years. Genetic specialization programs are already seeing decreased participation. Riley smiled. Humanity's most powerful export wasn't technology or resources, but the simple, radical idea that any being could become more than what they were born to be.